The 4X860 C-Leg 4 protective cover protects the prosthesis against external influences. It consists of a frame, a shield insert, a lengthwise closure and an upper closure that always stays attached to one side of the frame. A foot cuff is included, which has retaining clips on the bottom, allowing it to be attached to the foot or foot shell. First, release the connection cap from the foot. The body of the protective cover initially has to be shortened to just above the foot contact surface. It may not need to be shortened for tall prosthesis wearers. Lay the frame beside the knee joint. Make sure that the knee and protective cover are at the same level. Now mark the protective cover distally at the level of the foot contact surface. Make another mark 1 centimeter above the first mark. Now apply crepe adhesive tape all around proximal to the upper mark. This ensures that the protective cover does not warp as easily during sewing. In this way, a straight cutting edge is easier to achieve. Preliminary shortening of the cover follows in the next step. You can use a bandsaw or, as shown here, a vibrating or oscillating saw. Using a segment saw blade is highly recommended. Always wear the required protective equipment while working. During sewing, make sure that the protective cover frame does not twist and that the lengthwise closure does not slip. Remove the crepe adhesive tape from the protective cover after shortening. Then open the upper closure on the left side and remove the lengthwise closure. Next, you have to apply the protective cover frame to the C-Leg 4. When applying the protective cover, it is especially important to make sure that the retaining elements hook into the frame element of the C-Leg 4. Spread open the protective cover and apply it to the joint as well as possible from the front. Depending on the geometry of the chosen foot, the protective cover frame spreads open more or less towards the bottom so that the lengthwise closure cannot initially be closed as shown here. Once again, make sure that the retaining elements are hooked in. Fasten the upper closure. As you do so, gently squeeze the protective cover together with both hands. Next comes the final shortening of the protective cover. The final shortening of the protective cover depends on the chosen cuff size. See the table in the instructions for use to find the information for shortening. When cuff size M is used, for example, the protective cover has to be shortened so that the distance between the foot contact surface and the protective cover is 120 millimeters. This is the case in the example shown here. Now the protective cover should be marked in at least 3 places around the circumference according to the specified measurements. Take off the protective cover. Caution: at the most, the protective cover may be shortened to just before the first rib counted from the proximal end. Further shortening could cause the protective cover to lose stability. Fasten the 2 closures. Make sure that the protective cover is not twisted. Tape off the protective cover with crepe adhesive tape above the mark. This makes a clean and straight cut easier while sewing. Now you can shorten the protective cover to its final length with a bandsaw or a vibrating saw as shown here. The lengthwise closure stays in position better if you press on it lightly with your thumb while sawing. Finally, deburr the cut edge for a clean finish and to protect the textile material of the foot cuff. Adjusting the length of the protective cover frame is completed after deburring. Additional adaptation may still be required to ensure, for example, that the function of the prosthesis is not impaired. Some material may be carefully removed at the top of the protective cover frame if the rotation adapter has a pronounced tilt and touches the protective cover. However, this may make the fit of the protective cover on the joint less stable. When a 2R67 torsion adapter is used, the projection of the profile ribs on the inside of the protective cover should be removed as shown here in order to ensure that the protective cover fits properly. Once all required adjustments have been made, you can complete the final installation of the protective cover frame and foot cuff on the prosthesis. For this purpose, the foot must first be disconnected from the tube adapter. You can maintain the configured foot position by marking the set screws before unscrewing them. Now separate the foot from the tube adapter. Pull the cuff over the tube adapter. Remove the foot connecting cap. Reinstall the prosthetic foot on the tube adapter. Slightly tighten the set screws with an Allen key. Before final tightening of the set screws, remember to apply some Loctite 241 for better fixation. You should use a torque wrench for final assembly. Make sure that the seam of the cuff is in the posterior position. Position the clips of the cuff on the footshell. Now the clips have to be attached in the footshell. This is easiest when you do one side at a time. For example, start on the lateral side and then turn the prosthesis and attach the clips on the medial side. The time taken to attach the cuff depends on the chosen prosthetic foot and the condition of the footshell. Perform a final check to make sure all clips are correctly hooked in. Open the upper closure and remove the lengthwise closure from the frame of the protective cover. Spread open the protective cover and apply it to the C-leg 4. The textile material of the cuff has to be pulled over the distal edge of the protective cover during this process. Fasten the two closures on the back of the protective cover. Pay special attention to the two closures, making sure they engage properly. Finally, insert the shield insert by sliding it into the recess of the applied protective cover from the front and letting it engage. Final installation of the C-leg 4 protective cover is now complete. The cuff should now overlap the protective cover frame by about 2 centimeters.